Welcome to The Inner Wonder. I'm Alex and I'm your host.
Hi Thinkers, I'm Alex and I'm your host. Today with us, I'm very happy, we have Matteo Grosso.
Hello.
With Matteo I met on a random street in Barcelona. I was wearing my SAMS, my university hoodie. So he stopped me and say, hey, do you study there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I'm also an alumni, I just moved to Barcelona. I was like, cool. And then we started talking. And Matteo told me he was a life coach. And I was like, wow. That was the first time I ever saw one. So it was a bit like an alien, you know? I was like, oh. And then we engaged in some nice chats. And that became a very meaningful friendship, collaboration. That was great. Matteo has, after graduating from business school, worked in corporate in Dublin before founding his own company, the T1 Growth Academy, focused on growth, and I'm very curious to learn more about that and what you do. But Matteo, before we start, it's a question I always ask. If I was to remove your CV from you and ask, who is Matteo? What would you say?
That is a great question. Okay. Who is Matteo without a CV?
Without the CV.
I would say someone who believes that life is growth and service.
Mm-hmm.
And someone who believes that every human being, every person has the right to live a self-determined path, a fulfilling life. And I think that sometimes this belief doesn't come across in a CV, which is very result-oriented. And because of these, what I call a philosophy of life, basically, essentially, I try to live a life where I, myself, in the first of all, try to be an example of dedication, of empathy, of enthusiasm, of pushing my limits. Mm-hmm. And I try to be an example for other people who are also trying to do the same, I would say. Right. I think that maybe a word that brings everything together is kind of impact. Mm-hmm. I often use this word. With my clients, sometimes I say elevate your impact, elevate your leadership. And I think it goes back to this philosophy of growing and giving, growth and service, and the idea that we have the dignity to live a fulfilling life and not just surviving a job or any kind of life situation.
Right. I like the combination between growth, which can be perceived as someone very ambitious, very goal-oriented, very focused, very determined, but also with giving, who signifies a little bit more of a person that is I don't know if humble is the right word, but conscious about the environment they live in, right? And the people around them, and they care about their growth as well. Not just an individual growth, it's more like the growth for you, but also the growth for the environment you live in.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Yeah, because it's, the way I see it is two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. Because on the one hand, there is a bit of a more selfish approach to life, meaning like we want to grow, we want to push beyond our limits, we want to go to the next plateau or to the next level of potential, right, that we could attain. Right. But then what's the point? Why do we do that? And I think the best answer to that is service, is because imagine whenever you learn something new, mm-hmm. and you think it's amazing, you want to share it with the people you care about, right? You go to your friends, you go to your family and say, you have no idea, I have just read this article, I've just watched this video and it was amazing. And that's the service. That's why growing is so beautiful, because the way we grow, the more tools we have to actually help the people we love. And so it becomes a real philosophy of life. And you use the word humility. I think it has a lot to do with it, because humility is about truly valuing other people's perspectives and points of view, rather than thinking that our perspective is the only one which is acceptable and the only one which is correct. And so someone who is, and this is why humility and confidence can go hand in hand, because I can still be confident that because of my analysis, I may have the best perspective on a topic, but at the same time, humility always teaches us to elevate others and say, be a good listener. Always listen to what other people are trying to teach you or tell you, because there is some blind spots maybe. There are some blind spots that we are not seeing, and that we can learn something from other people as well.
Exactly. I think the most knowledgeable person that has ever existed said that all I know is that I know nothing.
Exactly. And
so
if he said it, we
guess
can take inspiration.
Yeah, if Socrates said it, I guess we can be, we can follow it as well.
It is true.
Amazing. No, that's really great. Mario, take me back to the day where you said, being in the corporate life, you said, now it's the time for me to embark in my journey and basically go directly into my potential and to what my goal is. And I say directly because even if before that you didn't have the company, you were working corporate, I believe that that's also indirectly working towards your goal, right? Because you're learning, you're growing, you're acquiring other skills and things that are needed. But then there came a day that you said, I'm not directly going there.
Okay, wow, okay, let's go back to 2018. So I graduate from SAMS, from Nova, and I decided to embark on a corporate journey, which is very typical for most people who study international management in business schools. Through referrals, I find my job in Dublin, and I'm very grateful for those 3 years in Dublin. Some people, especially when they reach the turning point of entrepreneurship, they seem to reject their past employers, meaning that they say, finally, I'm free, I didn't like this job, I only kept it because of the money, etc., etc. But I truly enjoyed my work in corporate. I really, really enjoyed and lived every minute of my experience. And as you said, I learned a lot. The most important thing for me was seeing how a big corporation operates. That was the most important thing, because it is eye-opening when you see so many people working with the same goal and integrating so effortlessly. It's inspiring in a way to create something yours. Now, of course, after 3 years, I kind of hit a plateau, and I felt I was not growing that much, and I didn't feel the fulfillment I had at the beginning. And I'm the kind of person, whenever there is something that doesn't feel right in my life, I need to change something in any area of my life. And I'm usually pretty quick at changing. Different people have different levels of speed at which they change. I realized that I really wanted to start something which felt my project, something mine, something where I could pour basically my passion. At the beginning it was really a passion. Most of my friends say, it is interesting because you didn't go from skills to passion. You went from passion to skills, and in a way it is a little bit true, because I had so much passion for the topic of leadership, human behavior, that in a way I studied so much, and I actually acquired a lot of skills in that specific area. I didn't have the business plan. I didn't have any plan, actually. And this is why when people tell me that I was very brave or courageous to quit a corporate job, a safe job, to start my own company, I always say I'm not really sure it was courage. It was probably a lack of conscientiousness or stupidity. I don't know if I was brave, because courage usually has a component of wisdom in itself.
But also of stupidity, right? Also of stupidity.
Yeah.
I think you need to be a little bit stupid to be courageous. In a good way,
Exactly. And I think it was that, because I really said, you know what, I think I have some ideas in mind. The only thing I knew was that I was amazing at training people, and I found deep joy from training people. I remember, in corporations, they usually give awards and these kind of things to the best employees. And most of the time when they give an award, they were the people I trained. And I was thinking, wow, maybe there is something, maybe there is an intersection between what I love doing, what I'm great at doing. Maybe I should try to find the sweet spot. And I basically took a leap of faith. And I started building the parachute while I was falling down, while I was falling off the airplane, basically. Because of necessity, I said, I need to find a way, I need to find something that works. And I tried to understand the patterns among the things I learned. For instance, I had the privilege, and the fortune to study with more than 20 coaches, because I always loved the topic of coaching. And so I had either paid coaches or maybe even mentors, free mentors that sometimes we get at university. And I started seeing some patterns among them. And then I read a lot of books. I listened to a lot of podcasts. When I say a lot, I mean over 1,000 for sure episodes per year. Okay, so the growth is a big part of my life. So when I read, over 50 books, podcasts, articles, I started to connect the dots and said, okay, what are the things that really made a difference in my leadership development? And I created a program based on that. And that was my first attempt to put something on the market and say, let's see if anyone buys it. Let's see if someone has faith in me. And thank God someone had faith in me. Some clients started saying, okay, well, it's interesting. It sounds interesting. So tell us more about it. And the first clients bought the program. And at the beginning, I was not even making money, because as it happens very often in entrepreneurship, you just cover the costs basically. And but then with the feedback from some clients and the word of mouth from those clients, I started basically growing my audience.
Right.
And and then today the business is going well. So we are impacting a lot of people this year. So very, very happy.
That's amazing, Matteo. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
I'm going to take one thing that you mentioned, which at the beginning might sound a bit counterintuitive, but I think it's what makes you and why I personally really believe in what you do, and I've seen you really doing it very well.
Thank you.
I was listening to a podcast the other day. The wife of my brother actually sent it to me, and it was about talking about coaches, right? It was that show was from LA. So you can imagine there, it's what's happening.
Everyone is a coach.
Exactly.
Dogs have coaches.
Exactly. And there was a bit of, some sort of, the good, the bad. And the main thing they mentioned as bad of coaches is that, they seem to portray this perfect life of their own as a coach, right? I am the coach and I'm on this level and you're the client, right? Exactly. And I have it all figured it out in my life, I am a superhuman. And what I really liked about you since day one is that you're the opposite of that.
Thank you.
You're like a coach that says, I'm learning every day. I'm learning from my clients. I'm learning from your team, the people that you work with. And I asked you why you moved to Lisbon, and you told me, well, here there is a community of entrepreneurs. You're learning from those.
Exactly.
You're learning from your friends, and at the same time, through all this learning, you actually acquire expertise and you're able to coach. So I feel that is really great. But to that, I wanted to ask you, do you sometimes feel a bit of the imposter syndrome of like, am I worth of coaching? Am I worthy of, these people are really, here with me, and I'm trying to help them grow. A bit of responsibility, right?
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you, because it's amazing to see my life through your eyes. It's very interesting also for me to reflect and say, wow, I mean, it's true. I try to be as authentic as possible, right? I try to be very honest and transparent. When everyone asks me, I always tell them everything. I say, yeah, man, I'm going through this and through that. It's super hard, but I'm trying to find a way. And you mentioned the keyword when you mentioned when you talked about imposter syndrome. The keyword here is responsibility. That's what you said. I think everyone at some point in life or in different phases of life, depending on what we do, feels some sort of imposter syndrome,
Right.
Especially when you deeply care about the people you would like to help, you would like to impact. Because the thing is, there is no limit to our knowledge, what we could possibly know. And therefore, still to this day, whenever I coach a client, whenever I am training, I'm doing anything, right? Whenever I'm servicing, whenever I'm impacting people, there is always a part of me that says, like a little voice in my head that says, okay, but you could have prepared a bit more. You could have read that article. You could have read 10 more pages of this book. And of course, I know that had I read 10 more pages, maybe I would know like one more thing, right? But then I try to take a step back and I coach myself essentially. Sometimes I even talk to myself in the mirror. I don't know if it's something everyone does, but I basically reflect and say, as I ponder, as I cogitate, I realize that first, there is no way I can know everything, or no one can know everything. Secondly, more than besides learning something new every day, which is a big part of my routine, I also want to make sure that I integrate each concept I learn. So rather than reading 50 pages, I should read 20 pages and make sure that I understand the concept, and then I integrate it into my coaching plan so that when a client asks something, I know that this is the framework they need, for instance.
Right.
And I think that's something that really helps, and I have to thank the clients, the people I have the privilege to work with. Their feedback really helps. I'm someone who has a naturally turbulent personality, which means that I tend to overthink.
Right.
I tend to second guess myself.
Right.
And so if I deliver a training and the people stay silent, I start thinking, oh, maybe the role play was not interesting enough. Maybe the presentation, the PowerPoint could have been better, something like that. But then when people tell you, and I was mentioning to that, I was mentioning this to you like half an hour ago. I went through over 100 pages of pure feedback from clients. And when you read that and you actually read the words of people saying, like, you have changed my life, this was enlightening, this was eye-opening, the imposter syndrome goes away, you know? You come back to the imposter syndrome because you say, okay, I know that we can always be more, but look at the impact I've had today. And it's so amazing to see this impact at 31 years old. You know, it's unbelievable. Really unbelievable.
That's amazing. You know, I asked once a manager I had about, I say, hey, I really always overthink everything about my performance, everything about this, everything about that. Like, do you have any advice? And he was like, yeah, ask for feedback.
Exactly.
I was like, good point. And it really goes to very simple, right? Asking, you know, hey, how was it? And then be open to receive it.
Very good point. Yeah, because most of us ask for feedback, but we don't want to know the truth, right? So we say, let's hope it's good, you know, let's hope. But actually, negative, you know, feedback is amazing feedback. Because, and when there is this trust between you and the manager or you and the client, they can really tell you the truth. And that is the most impactful feedback ever, because you realize that there are some things that you can improve. There are some things that you thought you were doing very well, but maybe they are useless. They're not really impactful as you thought they were. Because the problem when we work, and you can think about it from the perspective of an employee as well. An employee needs to lead themselves first. They start with self-leadership. And then as they grow, theoretically, not always, but most people start growing into the ability to lead others. And that's why they are promoted to leadership positions. For instance, they lead teams. And when you think about yourself, you know, if you are very self-centered, with your own self, Jay Shetty would say on self, you're not on purpose. The purpose is to get better, to be better, to learn something, to impact other people, to help someone else. But if I'm on self and you give me feedback, I tend to take it personally. Because I say, oh, are you saying that I'm not smart enough? Are you saying that I should have done this and this and this?
Yeah.
But if you're on purpose, you can say, oh, this is very helpful. Because thanks to this, I can make a better presentation to our clients, for instance. So next time, there will be one more person in the audience who says, wow, and they get value out of it. And you can really see the difference, right? As we grow as professionals and the human beings, I think, you can spot the difference between the people who are on self and the people who are on purpose. Even in relationships, even with like our siblings, brothers, sisters, friends.
Right.
You know, it's amazing.
To be on purpose, no, I think that's a very interesting way of saying. I think it's correct, right? Because it underlines what is the motivation, you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons I believe in, let me know what's your opinion on this. One of the reasons I believe we struggle with feedback
Mm-hmm.
is that because it directly goes to our identity. If someone says, this presentation was not good because you were not very direct on your message, for example, then it starts to hit on your identity and you say, that's me and I'm not good with giving a direct message. It really hits the identity. And I feel that on one hand there is the internal, that basically we should not take it as an identity. On the other hand there is the external, that there is a judgment. Right? I think people would be very keen, and it's very simple to just say that person is not good with giving a message. Finish. On the other hand, if you do something good, they're like, oh, this is the person that is good with maths. You know, and then you're like, okay, all of a sudden I'm Aristoteles. You know, it's like
Well said. Well said. Yeah, the topic of identity is a core topic in coaching. We talk about it a lot. Where do we start? Let me think.
that was not a direct question.
Because but I love it. Because, well, if we think about it, so the identity is composed of two things, values and beliefs.
Okay.
So these two things define our identity. And so first of all, as Dan Shapiro from Harvard Business School says, if we touch values and beliefs, people are naturally getting defensive.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if you're asking me for a promotion, and I say we only promote people who are very trustworthy, and one of your core values is trustworthiness, like you are very reliable, you get it personal. The ego comes into play,
Right.
like the pride comes into play, because you say, wait, are you saying that I'm not trustworthy enough to be promoted? But if I say, for instance, if I show you that there are some metrics that can be improved, and say, of course, when we improve these, when you improve your ability to talk to clients, to lead meetings, etc., we foresee a promotion, that is fine. That is not a hard feedback to receive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constructive way of delivering feedback. So that's the first part. Second important thing is that there is a big difference between, the big generational gap between older and newer generations.
Okay.
For older generations, and we are basically in the middle, so that's why when it comes to people our age, we are really in between these two. Older people saw work, for instance, so the ability to do a presentation, imagine,
Mm-hmm.
as a cornerstone of life.
Mm-hmm.
Younger people see work as one part of life.
Right.
And so that's why it seems sometimes that younger people don't care as much about work as someone who is 40 or 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the person who is 40 or 50 years old, they design their life around the career. And they're very proud of being the subject matter expert on a specific topic. So if you criticize, if you give them feedback, and if you say, well, this presentation was not effective, you're basically touching the core of their personality.
Right.
If you give it to someone very young, usually, since it's only one of the 20 areas of life, then there is adventure, there is fun, there is finances, there is friendships, there is relationships, there is stress management, there is sleep, there is so many other things. They usually don't define themselves with the specific presentation. So there is also this aspect to consider. The paradox I see sometimes is that when it comes to work, younger generations ask for less feedback compared to older generations, which is also strange. But it probably ties in with what you were saying before. So older generations usually give feedback, ask for some feedback. The newer generations, a little bit less. And if there is a problem, as Simon Sinek teaches, they are hesitant sometimes to bring it up. Mm-hmm. You might have someone who is 20, 25 years old, mm-hmm. They work at the company for 1 year, and then they quit. And you ask them why, what happened? And they say, yeah, because I was not very happy. I say, okay, but you never told me. Why did you talk to me about it?
Right.
We don't take into account that there is a completely different communication style between generations, and newer generations are much more collaborative. They want to do things with you, not for you, as it happened with older generations. And so managers really need to take this into account, of course, to make sure that the team is engaged. But that's not a different topic, of course.
Do you think that it generally helps to have a more multidimensional approach to life, rather than saying work defines me, or for some people my marriage or my relationship defines me, and it's,
wow.
Everything is there, so you mentioned the different generations, but do you think it's better to be more multidimensional, or do you think it's just different personalities, or how do you view it?
Wow. It's a beautiful question. I would say that it is good to have a very holistic perspective on life, overall. Why? Because these areas of life are intertwined in a way. Imagine something goes wrong at work, you go home, you meet your partner, and you find yourself fighting with your partner. And you take a step back and say, why are we fighting? I mean, I didn't have a problem with you, but something went wrong at work. I'm angry at my manager, and I'm angry at you because you're not listening to me, right? So it's good to have a very holistic perspective.
Right.
Years ago, older generations had a very narrow and very narrow perspective on the different areas of life, and very important, responsibilities were very well defined. Let me explain, let me elaborate. The man, usually, stereotypically, the man of the family takes care of work.
Right.
The woman of the family takes care of the family. And so they knew exactly what they had to do. They only had one focus. The man had to make money, and the woman needed to take care of the children.
Right.
Nowadays, it's not like this anymore. Like we have, first of all, we have equalized the play field, right? We have equal opportunities,
Right.
which is an amazing thing. But we also need to be more aware of all these different areas of life. Because while, for instance, vacation, holidays, before was something that we take 2 weeks in August and no one works. Nowadays, newer generations, they tell you, listen, I'm smart working from the Alps tomorrow, and in 2 days I'm coming back to the office, but then I'm leaving again because we are going to the French Riviera. And the manager is like, what's happening? How do I deal with this? Right? And so we need a shift, and it's not easy. I had an amazing client, brilliant client asking me last week. She said, but who needs to change? Do I need to change as a leader? Right? Is there something that I'm missing? Because maybe I need to upskill myself and understand these newer generations. And
What a good manager, just for asking that question.
she's unbelievable. If she hasn't seen this clip, she's amazing. Because just the fact that she's thinking about it, she's asking,
Exactly.
this is a good manager, And I think one of her greatness is that she's able to have and adopt, let's say, a different perspective on things. So every human being has their perception of a problem, an issue or something. And then thanks to this eye-opening training, as my clients call it, but I don't think it's eye-opening, but it's usually it's a very broad training, okay?
Right.
They realize that they can go from perception to different perspectives. So if I'm talking to you, it is my responsibility as a great communicator to first understand what you are thinking. So it's basically, I take off my glasses, I put Alexandro's glasses, and I put them on and I see, okay, this is how he's looking at it, right? Imagine you're looking at the camera, the angle is different, so you may see something that I'm not seeing. Mm-hmm. And then, once you understand the perspective of the other person you're negotiating with or you're talking to, you can even try to adopt a third-party perspective, which is usually recommended because you take emotion out of the equation and you say, okay, let's try to define some criteria to understand if we are having, if you are making progress in this scenario. And you go to a third party, more objective. There is no such thing as completely objective perspective, but right? But we can try. And this is why, sometimes people nowadays use ChatGPT, they use artificial intelligence, they open ChatGPT, tell me the truth, right? Is it true that? And ChatGPT gives a perspective, but it's still its perspective. We don't know if it is true or not, but it helps because well, there is a beautiful quote that says, once you truly understand your enemy, you cannot hate them. And I really believe in that. You know, if I truly understand you, I cannot hate you. Because if I were you, if I walked in your shoes, if I had the same parents, the same opportunities, I would probably think very much like you. You know, with very minor differences based on some nature, of course, which is still innate.
Do you think, though, as a manager, there is a limit up to how much you should really get into the perspective of your team, right? Do you think that there comes a point where you as a manager end up overly getting into the perspective of your team? Having said that, I do believe most of the managers are not there, but just to say that, like, in that case, you know, that they, you know, there could be a limit up to the point that you say maybe you're two in your team, and then maybe you lose a bit the focus, or you lose a bit the control. And I'm asking that because I feel like that's probably a fear of a manager trying to do that, right? Trying to see the perspective of the team. They might have this fear that, what if I overdo it and I lose control of my team?
It's a great point, very interesting point. Is there such thing as a manager who is too team oriented? And in a way, yes, there is, and that can also be dangerous. Mm-hmm. Because a manager is essentially, it's an oversimplification, but it's a communication conduit between the directors and the team. And they're under a lot of pressure. The reason why I love working with middle managers is because it is the most difficult job in the world, because they have pressure from above, pressure from below, and no one is happy, right? They talk to anyone, no one is happy, and they try to basically juggle these two different groups of people. The core essence of management is operational excellence. So theoretically speaking, a manager should not concern himself or herself too much with the team, because the manager needs to think about the KPIs, needs to make sure that this week, this month, we are doing what we said we are going to do. Nowadays, however, managers are trained in leadership, which is a completely different thing. Many times we think, oh, he's a great manager, he will be an amazing leader. Very rare. Sometimes not at all. Because leadership is about vision, long-term vision. So not next week or next month, next 5 years. Mm-hmm. So every decision a leader makes has perspective. And second, core principle of leadership is nurturing the people. So if my team is not growing, if my team, in any way, emotionally, spiritually, with new skills, of course, related to the specific role-related knowledge that they have, there is an issue. Right. Because a leader focuses on the development of the people. And this is why most of the time I find myself working with leaders more than managers, because they're already interested in these topics and they want to understand if there is anything they're missing. But sometimes, of course, there are some managers who are amazing at operational excellence and they want to understand what they're missing. Is there anything that they should think about? So to your point, Alex, yes, a manager needs to be able to know what the limitations are. I had a manager and it was very funny because she said, I have this employee and she sends me like pictures of the bread. She just baked bread and she sends me a picture and she said, I'm so happy, because I baked bread. And she's like, and I tell you, no, I'm so happy for you. It's amazing. You go, girl. But at the same time, she was like, sometimes I need to take a step back and remind them, like, guys, this project needs to be delivered on time. It's okay to bake bread, but like, what about the client who is organizing an event next week and is worried and is calling you, because older generations call. They don't want to text. maybe because they don't have amazing sight, 60 years old or something. But also behaviorally or culturally, they don't like to waste time with text or something, like vocal messages or emails. They call you. And so they have the clients. And newer generations are like, yeah, I mean, if I'm not here, if I don't pick up, they would just send a message. No, they will not. Most of the time, someone will say 60, 65, they want to talk to you. They want to understand what the problem is. I learned this working in corporate in GRG because I was working customer service and I realized that the best thing to do, I was working with experts, so over 40 years old, the best thing you could do for them was calling them because they were so happy.
Yeah.
And so sometimes she needs to adopt a more directive approach. And so less nurturing, more like focus on results. This is why I believe in a holistic approach, because a manager needs to be able to change hat, quoting Edward de Bono, to change hats depending on the moment. I might be in a one-to-one feedback session with you, and I realize that I need to be empathic with you because maybe you're going through something difficult. But then all of a sudden you're fine, and so now we can talk about the results. Now it's the time to push and time to energize you and motivate you.
Right.
And this needs to change in a split second. You cannot take a break and say, okay, now I'm going back and I'm going on with a directional mood. No, it doesn't work like that.
So you have to be dynamic also.
Yes, very important.
Into how you behave with your team, right? Not all the moments are with the same approach. Exactly, because people change. I would even dare to say, and this might be what's the term, the English term, not a counterintuitive, but like more of a fresh approach, okay, scientific approach, but it's still backed by science, that we need to be even quicker in adapting to either women or at least people with feminine energy than male or at least people with masculine energy. Because men and women have different hormonal cycles. For us men it's 24 hours, for women it's 28 days. And so depending on the four weeks, the 4 moments of the cycle, they will have different needs. So while a man is more or less similar from the day before, like they follow this cycle, testosterone is very high in the morning, it drops at night, we tend to be more tired. For women it's completely different. The follicular phase, the luteal phase, they are completely different. Sometimes they have more energy, sometimes they need to take it easy. And so as a manager, we need to be aware of that. And this is also why sometimes women, even if of course it's a challenge for self-leadership, sometimes women are amazing managers because they understand it. It's very difficult maybe for a man to understand something we cannot feel in our own body, right? So it's interesting. There are so many nuances to being a fantastic leader, and as we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, there is no limit to growth and to learning these things. It's unbelievable how many things I usually try to study at least 1 hour every day. So every day I have my hour, I can do whatever. I usually read or watch video courses. Because I learn best by visual and people talking. I take notes, as if I were in a classroom basically. I take notes and I learn best by these and podcasts. Whenever I'm cooking, whenever I'm walking somewhere, I don't listen to too much music. And it's nice because every day you discover something, you find something that you did not know and you think, wow, another thing that... I love this 1 hour learning a day. It's such a great habit to have, and something to be, I don't know, something exciting, something creative, something that gives something new to the day, right? Exactly. But oftentimes I think for many people sometimes it feels that every day is a bit the same or repetitive, and it gives a bit that spark. Super cool. Exactly. Yeah, it makes us more interesting people, right? It's even if the
golden rule is always be interested into the other person,
Right.
in communication.
Right.
So again, from self-mastery to leading others, right?
Right.
There is this quote from Chris Voss. He says, interesting people are interested.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, because what's everyone's favorite topic? Themselves. They can talk about themselves for hours. And so when they feel that someone is really genuinely interested, because we cannot fake it, we really have to be genuinely interested, they express, they talk, and sometimes they feel that we are interesting.
Right.
But maybe we have not said much, but we're just amazing listeners. We just allowed for the conversation to flow, and people get epiphanies throughout the conversation,
100%.
right? Because as humans, how do we create some order among our thoughts? If we say in our head, we are dead. You know, one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, always used to say that. If you stay in your head, you're dead. So you either talk it through,
Of course.
and this is what most people do in coaching, or you write it down, and this is why journaling is so effective.
Of course.
You know, because we will never solve a complex math problem in our head. I take a piece of paper, a pen, and I just write it down. Same thing with life. You know, I was doing some work for myself, because as we said, I'm always like learning and developing. And a couple of months ago, I decided I wanted to do more work on relationships.
Right.
And so I started like learning some new models, some frameworks I can think through. I'm working with a dating coach. I'm really trying to understand everything related to this specific sector. Also because this is something that almost every client talks about, because relationship and work are two topics that
Are super
everyone, right?
core into what everybody does, right?
It's so important.
So important.
And so yeah, it's you find so many things through journaling, and you find out that
You know, it's a funny thing you mentioned journaling, because you know, usually you mentioned before, you know, you go to work during your, you know, you wake up, you go to work, and then you come home. And if you're in a relationship, you come home to either your partner or your flatmates or whoever you are, or your family. And then I would say the most common question would be, "Oh, how was your day?"
yeah.
You know? And then you end up in a conversation that's I'm not sure if actually it's a reflection of how was your day, or it's a bit of a confusing thing, and or sometimes you're not in the mood. And then also I feel like the other person that is there waiting for you, or you are the person waiting for the other person to say something, they say, but you're not really sure what happened during their day, you know? And you said about journaling. So recently my partner came up with this idea. So it was about instead of, you know, going home and saying, "Oh, how was your day?" and stuff, journaling is super useful. So let's kind of journal the day and then send it to each other. Okay?
Oh.
And then I was like, okay. So I didn't do it. Okay?
Great idea. I'm not doing it.
But then a couple of days after, I was like, yeah, you know that idea? I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna try it. And it's so amazing, Matteo, because firstly, you take out what's in your head, but oftentimes we don't even know what's in our head, and we're just overwhelmed.
It's true. We
take
have
it
to
out.
download it. We have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I feel that it improves the relationship because you kind of understand each other a bit more. You think, oh, this person has so many things in their head, or they are bothered by this, or, you know, and then if you ask them to take out the trash and they're pissed, maybe, you know, and it improves the getting into the perspective of the other person. And in relationships, usually the person you care about, so oh, it's supposed to be right. So it was yeah, it was pretty cool. Actually.
Wow. So you journal, and then you share your journaling with your partner.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
It's amazing, because they can see your perspective, and They can see the day through your eyes, as we said before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's I'm going to steal that one. It's a exercise
Please go ahead.
for the clients. Journal and send it back. No, but it's amazing.
And I think another point you mentioned about oftentimes the most interesting people are those that are interested.
Yep.
And I did an episode recently with an author of a book that was called Lead It Like Lasso, and it's like leadership based on the show.
The show Ted Lasso. Oh, yeah, of course.
It was really fun, actually, really fun.
I'm going to listen to it.
One of the scenes that we discussed also during the podcast was is the famous darts scene. So for those that watch the show, I don't want to spoil it much, but for those that watch the show, it's a very famous scene.
I know the scene. Yeah, I saw it on TikTok, I think.
That says, "Be curious, not judgmental." You know.
Exactly.
I will leave it there.
Exactly.
Watch
Wow.
the scene. Watch the show.
Wow. And it was a great lesson for that arrogant guy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Be curious, not judgmental. Yeah, because in our society we tend to judge as if we were on some sort of pedestal, right? Who gave us the right to tell people how they should live their life? You know, a quote which I love is that it comes from Jim Rohn, and who is one of the fathers of personal development, and
he's a mentor of Tony Robbins.
Exactly, he was Tony Robbins' mentor. And he says, success is the continuous unfolding of life as you have envisioned it. And to me, that's the best definition of success, because success is deeply personal.
Right, 100%.
Right? And most of us make the big mistake to achieve a success that is not our success. It's success for someone else. I was talking between yesterday and today with a student, university student. I recently posted an article. They asked me to write an article for university students. And I usually enjoy my free time. I try to do free mentoring and I write these articles. And some students reached out, and there was one guy, he sent such a beautifully well thought message. And he said, Matteo, like, this is, again, eye-opening. I'm very happy, you know, it's enlightening, it's eye-opening. And he said exactly this. He said, but sometimes people tell us what we have to do. But then I realized that if I just think about it, I have my own desires and the way I would like to lead and live my life. And I told him, exactly, there are 4 options only when we design life. Option number 1, in 5 years, we will be exactly where we are today. Because most people don't change. Most people like to complain, but they don't like to change. Option number 2 is that we will arrive at an undesigned destination. It is good that we arrive somewhere, but if it was undesigned, unplanned, we might not want to be where we want to be. These are the people, you know, there's the quote, they drive what they don't want to drive, they wear what they don't want to wear, they're with people they don't want to be with, etc. Option number 3 is we get to a designed destination. This is already amazing because the destination was designed, it was planned, it was envisioned. Just be careful about something though. Who designed it? Because if the destination was designed by our parents, our professors, our friends, maybe it's not our mountain to hike. And this is what happens to most people in the corporate world especially. They hike a mountain, they get there, they receive the award and they feel very empty. Yeah. Because they say, oh, wait, this was not my mountain. and then they get to the valley of despair because they have to go down, and they have to hike another mountain. And that ties in very, very well with what you were saying before. Like success is the continuous development, the continuous unfolding of life as we have designed it.
And the fourth one would be...
Oh yeah, designed exactly by us. Designed by us, exactly.
Sorry,
exactly.
No,
Exactly. We need it.
Number 4, so.
Exactly. Point number 4, designed by us.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Matteo, this conversation is really, really nice.
And I'm happy.
I don't want to say enlightening.
Let's not say.
It's really, really nice. And the reason it's nice is because we have you here, right, with us. In the Inner Wonder podcast, in every episode we have a muse.
Oh,
right.
okay.
So muses, according to ancient Greek mythology, were a source of inspiration.
Okay.
So they used to use them initially to make like tragedies, theatrical plays, etc., etc. So in today's episode, the muse for us to discuss a topic that's a wonder for us, for our inner wonder. It's you. You're the muse for us, right?
Okay.
You're building
that
conversation. But I wanted to ask you, in your life, in your journey so far, who or what could be a book, could be a person, could be a movie. What has been your muse that inspired you?
Oh, wow. Can it be multiple things? Because there are many muses in my life, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm now reflecting on the fact that there are so many. In different ways. Because the first people I thought about are my friends. I have a couple of friends, very diverse pool of friends. And I really look up to them to inspire myself. And if I think about the closest ones I have, like from Anil to Patrick to Jan to Andrea to Luca to Marco, there are some friends, if you just talk to them for like 1 hour, you find enlightenment. You feel that you're so much wiser, so much more skilled than you were before. I would say the family is also being in some way, the way my father operates from a value perspective. I think it's very important. And the beauty of this world is that, as you said, there are so many ways we can learn and we can find inspiration. For instance, I had many mentors, and some of them I took part to live events or virtual events. I didn't even meet them in person. I listened to their podcast, for instance.
Right.
I don't even know how they look like in real life, but I know they've inspired me. For instance, Jim Rohn is one of them. An event with Tony Robbins was well worth my money. All these kind of people who have a perspective, let's say. If I think about, books, I think about, I think it's the title, the English title is The Way of Man or The Path of Man by Martin Buber. Brilliant book that talks about service and giving back to others. When it comes to being a bit more assertive, there is a TV series which I love, which is called Suits. You might know Suits, right?
Yeah.
And the way this series, by the way, is completely built on behavioral science. Every dialogue, since I'm an expert in behavioral science, every dialogue is exactly how I could have wrote it, or I could have written it, I could have contributed it and to write it. It's amazing. It's pure behavioral science. And so the way even if it is a TV series, of course, you can still take some inspiration and say, okay, that's what I would like to be more like. And so many, but yeah, it's
very beautiful that you've mentioned all of that. I mean, it's a very difficult question, right? But because the beauty of it is that indeed there are so many, and we can learn from so many things around us, from so many people, from books, shows. For me, for example, when I did it, it was my first ever episode I did, and I said what was the first ever muse for me for the Inner Wonder podcast.
Okay. What did you say?
I was saying Mr. Bean.
Oh.
And I made a reference to one of the movies he made that I was watching when I was a kid, and it was like so eye-opening for me, that movie, because it went very against like you watch Mr. Bean to have fun,
Yeah.
right? But in that movie, besides the fun, there was a bit of an interesting point of view that was that movie with the painting. I don't know if you watched it. It was a movie with a painting, and they sent him to be a critic of paintings, but the guy had no clue. Okay, so he was just there randomly, and there was a painting. It was called The Whistler's Mother, right? And basically, they asked him to make a speech about the painting.
Okay.
But the guy had no clue. So, so he goes on the podium and says, like, why is this painting worth so many millions? He looks at it and it's like, and says, well, in reality, it's just a fat old cow. The reason it's worth so much money is because it's Whistler's mother, right? And it talks about the value of family or relationships in that case. But he gave a perspective, right? That it was called The Whistler's Mother. And for me, I was like, I was so stupid, it was so beautiful, you know?
That's amazing, yeah. It's true. The inspiration can be anywhere, you know. Mr. Bean is such an amazing example.
Exactly.
Like a movie or something, a place even. You know, I thought about India, you know, the traveling to India. That's also an inspiration. That's a place where you are there and you feel very inspired, you know.
Right,
yeah, like a mastermind is in Rishikesh, for instance, you know, the yoga capital of the world.
Exactly.
And that is a place where the Ganges River, you know, is born.
Okay.
The famous river that goes to Varanasi,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
The famous sacred city.
Nice.
And the river is born in Rishikesh, in the mountains. And it's a place which I love. I deeply love it because it's peaceful. The atmosphere is amazing.
Yeah.
Any place. It's a good question. You know, who inspires you? Who?
Potentially.
Yeah, we can talk about it for hours.
Exactly. But this is so cool, Matteo. This is so cool. As we end this episode, what I like to do with all the guests is a very small visualization exercise, right? Which I have to say at this point that one of the first instances where I faced visualizations exercises was
when we collaborated. Okay, because you have to know that Alex and I worked together. You know, he helped me with my work at T1 Growth Academy. You have been unbelievable. Like my clients loved you. You know, it's like, oh, Alex is amazing. When you left, you know, to go for to Switzerland, we were like, oh, but Alex is not here anymore. I was like, no, I mean, he found a new job, of course, because that's life. I was like, oh, you know, it's so yeah, visualizations. Yeah, we use a lot of visualizations in coaching. Visualizations, role plays, like it needs to be dynamic, right? Yeah. Otherwise, people get bored. Of course, they have every right to be.
So we do this like small visualization.
Okay, let's do it.
I hope now I'm getting a bit stressed because you're very good at
No.
visualizations. So I'm like,
Let's
I
do
need
it.
to master this. Imposter syndrome. But perfect. So you can close your eyes and
Okay.
guests join us as well. Thinkers. So Matteo, it's a beautiful day here in Lisbon. You just had your last coaching call of the day. It was actually the last one with a specific client, and you feel them energetic, empowered, ready to take on the challenges they came to you that maybe they were feeling a bit lost at the beginning, but now they're feeling ready to take on with all the mindset and the growth you uncovered from them. So it's a fulfilling day. You go to sleep. Then you wake up. When you wake up, things are a little bit different. But you're still you, same age, same year. But instead of going to do your coaching calls, you end up in a big building. And you say hi to your colleagues as if you were there yesterday. You sit down on your desk that has your name tag. You open your email and you have a bunch of emails from yesterday, from projects you worked on. And soon you realize that you never left corporate. You were there. as you proceed your day, you keep on working on your projects, incorporate on your presentations, and during the end of the day, people come to you and say, hey Matteo, thanks so much for today, honestly it was super impactful, I really learned from it. Then you go back to home and you're thinking, you had that same feeling, but in a different context. So I just wanted to ask you to open your eyes.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, Matteo, of course, decisions play a big role in our life, deciding to do something. And the environment 100% shape us, right? In a company where we are in another company. But at the core, it's us.
Well, I like this visualization. And it's nice to be guided for once, right? I got goosebumps because I'm a very kinesthetic person, so I feel a lot. I love practical things. It was an interesting one. So I will give you my take, okay? Everyone has a different take when they go through these experiences. And so at first, I had this wonderful day coaching, and then I realized I was still in corporate, and as if I basically woke up from a dream, And at first I was disappointed. I said, what happened? Why am I here? Right? I left, I quit. I'm back here. But then I had such a wonderful day impacting people in corporate. And at the end of the day, I was fulfilled. I was happy. And I went to bed happy. And my takeaway from this is that there are so many ways we can live our purpose. We can leave an impact, and we can use our talents. Each person has a talent. And if we look for it, we find it. Because everyone has at least 5 or 6 talents, But there are so many ways to use the talent. Most people sometimes, they feel stuck, even after they do maybe a coaching program, for instance. And they need just one more switch, which I give them, which is don't focus too much on everything that we have talked about. Imagine you have clarity on your why, on your purpose. But there are so many ways you can live that. For instance, my why, my purpose is spreading great ideas. In the first part of your visualization, I was doing it as a core business, let's say. I was self-employed or with my business. In the second part of your visualization, I was doing it to people in the corporate world. But both things gave me fulfillment in the same exact way because I was helping people, I was impacting people's lives, and I was getting the recognition that I valued a lot. Right. And so I think that this is a very important teaching because we don't need to be entrepreneurs traveling across the world. We just need to understand what is our talent and how we can live our purpose a little bit every day in our life to be of service to the people in our life.
Exactly.
Let me know what you think.
You can have impact today.
Exactly.
Of course, there are moments that you're going to make a decision and you're going to reach points where maybe your impact is bigger, but you can have impact today.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes we don't realize that, and this is, by the way, this is a big problem with social media and the way the world is perceived nowadays. Because if you open TikTok, Instagram, it seems like you either win it big or you're a fucking loser, right? You're a very sore loser.
Extremes.
Right? Exactly, extremes. But what about going to the supermarket and smiling at the cashier, you know, and making a joke and laughing with him or with her and making their day better.
Right.
You know? It's an impact. Okay, we are not changing the world, but maybe this person goes home and they smile to their husband or to the wife. They are nice just because someone was nice to them, you know? It happened the other day. I was in Milan and with a friend of mine. We went to get groceries or something. There was one guy, I just thought about cashiers, I'm just going with the flow here. There was a guy and you could see he was having the worst day ever. And because basically clients were asking for some points in the cards and there were some issues with the points, right? So he had to go and find a solution for that. And he was visibly vivid, you know, very angry. And I saw that he had like a stuck, you know, with the day. With his name. And so while we were trying to redeem these points, I called him by his name and I said, you know, Alessandro, how is the day? Tough day, eh? It's an accusation audit. I'm basically taking out something that you are maybe thinking but you don't want to say. It's a tough day, eh? He looks at me as if I did something amazing to him, but I just called him by his name.
Right.
And he says, man, you have no idea, you know, it's a super tough day. I was like, yeah. I said, yeah, but man, you're just helping so many people. You see, like there was this problem, you just solved it in 5 minutes. Bro, he was buzzing, and I was so happy. He was like, man, I know, right? I'm very good. I just left, and with my friend Luca, you know, we were talking about it, and Luca is also an amazing, like, super kind guy. And I said, man, we just made his day. We just made his day. We just made him like happy out of the blue, out of nowhere.
And that's the impact.
And yeah, we just forget about the ripple effect of our actions, and which is actually the most important thing, because we don't need a motivational video that goes viral on LinkedIn or whatever. Like, we just need to be decent, great human beings in our daily life, impacting the people around us. It's already enough. It's already enough to be an example of care, of empathy, of kindness to the people around us. Then, of course, the more the merrier, right? If we handled the few disciplines most of the time in life, and people call us to handle greater responsibilities. And I think that's the amazing thing of leadership, right? When you're responsible for the few, then they call you to be responsible for the many, right? And it's an amazing thing because it's growth. Right. You can inspire more people. And I was talking with a friend, very rich entrepreneur, very wealthy entrepreneur, last weekend, and we were discussing the fact that money is not a problem in itself or great in itself, but money amplifies who you are at your core as a person. And this is why I really believe that a component of ethic should be always, or philosophy, should always be taught. Because we need to work on the person and we need to work on the skills of the person. Some people achieve so much and they're so poor inside. You see them and you really don't want to be like them. But some people are extremely kind. They have little, are extremely kind. They have a lot, they're even kinder. You know, money amplifies who we are. And so, and that's something I try to remember when I think about my life, because
not necessarily
right?
changing, but amplifying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
It's a nice thing to think about from time to time.
Matteo, thank you so much. It's
Man, thank you.
Super nice. So, thank you for being with us today.
I'm very happy, and thank you for being here. Thank you to all our listeners. It's been a privilege.
Awesome. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channels. and share my work on your social media. Until our minds meet again, enjoy the inner wonder you're creating. Thanks everybody. See you next episode.